Welcome to Skill Spark Podcast. We are diving deep today into, well, a topic that's everywhere, isn't it? Navigating the age of AI. We've pulled together some really critical sources for you, research on the future of work, some great case studies on upskilling, what actually works, and importantly, the ethical side of things.
That's right. And look, for many people listening, there's this core anxiety, this question, will AI take my job?
Yeah, that's the big one.
So our mission today is really to move past that fear. We want to distill the specific actionable steps you need, help you think about your own learning path.
To make sure AI becomes like your co-pilot, not your competition.
Exactly. Your collaborator.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's tackle that anxiety head on. Job security. What's the real picture? Are we looking at mass replacement?
Well, the sources actually give us a really useful way to think about this. It's a framework. The difference between automation and augmentation.
Okay, automation versus augmentation. Let's define those. Automation first.
Sure. Think of automation as AI stepping in for those repetitive rules-based tasks. You know, the kind of stuff that takes up maybe 80% of certain jobs, but doesn't really need human creativity.
Like what specifically?
Things like processing invoices automatically, advanced data entry, maybe streamlining complex reporting. It's about efficiency, really, and cutting down on errors.
Got it. So the machine does the task instead of the human. What about augmentation then? Is it just the opposite?
It's more about scaling human capabilities. Augmentation uses AI to make people better at their jobs, not replace them entirely.
Okay, so helping us work smarter.
Precisely. Examples could be predictive lead scoring for a sales team, helping them know where to focus their energy, or maybe decision support tools for finance leaders, pulling together complex market data instantly. It helps you work faster, yes, but also with better insight.
So back to the job elimination fear. What did the research actually find? Are companies just, slashing staff because of AI?
It's actually pretty interesting. The data suggests something quite counterintuitive. Gartner, for instance, predicts that by 2027, fully, 50% of organizations that expected big cuts in customer service jobs due to AI, well, they'll actually abandon those plans.
50%. Wow, that's huge. Why? The change of heart.
I think it speaks to this realization that going fully automated, like a totally agentless strategy, often just doesn't work for complex customer issues.
Right. Quality suffers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Companies are learning quickly. They need a kind of digital first, but not digital only approach. You still need that human touch for the tricky problems, for empathy.
Well, we also saw some really compelling data about augmentation boosting productivity, especially for newer workers. There was that NBER study, right? National Bureau of Economic Research.
Oh, yeah, that study is fantastic. It looked at customer support agents using an AI tool.
And the results.
Overall, the agents using the AI resolved almost 14% more issues per hour. Pretty significant.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The biggest gains, they weren't for the top performers, were they?
No. The biggest jump, a massive 35% improvement, was among the lowest skilled and least experienced workers.
35%. That's incredible.
It really is. It shows the AI isn't just helping the stars. It acted like a super fast coach, basically transferring the skills and even the conversational habits of the best agents to the newer ones almost instantly.
So someone with just 2 months experience was performing like someone with 6 months experience who didn't have the tool.
Exactly.
So the big takeaway for you listening is pretty clear then. Smart leaders are figuring out that AI needs to strengthen their people, not just replace them.
Right. It's about being agile, knowing, okay, this task is rules-based, repetitive, let's automate that 80%. But this part, this 20%, that needs judgment, nuance, creativity.
That's where you augment.
That's where you augment. You use AI to support the person, not sideline them. If it needs empathy or complex problem solving, augmentation is the way. Automation is for the repeatable stuff, protecting your business from burnout and delays.
Okay, so if augmentation is the strategy strengthening people, the next obvious question for listeners is, how do I actually build those skills? There's just so much AI information out there, it feels overwhelming.
It absolutely is. And that's why having a structured approach to learning is so critical. Our sources highlighted, I think, 10 best practices, but we can probably focus on the 5 core ones that really define a successful learning path.
Yeah, let's boil it down. What's number 1?
First, start with foundations. Never assume people already know the basics. You need that common ground.
Okay, level set first. Makes sense.
Second, provide clear, structured learning paths. This directly fights that feeling of being overwhelmed. Give people a map.
Right, guide them through it. What's third?
Third, and this is super important, make it role specific. A generic one-size-fits-all AI training just doesn't cut it.
Because AI affects a marketer differently than, say, an engineer.
Exactly. Their daily workflows, the tools they use, the problems they solve. It's all different. Fourth, set clear guidelines for responsible use. We'll talk more about ethics later, but you need those guardrails from the start.
Ethical use baked in. And the fifth?
Finally, give dedicated space and time for exploration. People need time to play, to experiment, to fail safely in a sandbox environment. If leadership doesn't make time for learning, it just won't happen organically.
We saw some great examples of this tailored approach based on roles. How did different teams learn according to the sources, like technical versus non-technical?
We'll take marketing teams. For them, the focus was very much on behavior change.
Yeah.
Evolving daily habits.
Becoming AI practitioners. Yeah.
Integrating AI into their normal creative processes, their planning routines, making it sustainable, not some huge separate effort.
And for sales, it sounded more structured there.
Definitely. With the Microsoft sales teams, MCPS they call them, the big challenge was getting the right info to a huge number of people without drowning them.
Information overload is a killer.
Totally. So they created these flight plans. Really structured learning divided into stages. That's the basics. Practice hands-on workshops. And refuel short, regular updates.
And did it work?
The results were impressive. Nearly 90% of the learners felt much more confident talking about AI value with customers after going through it. It really helped prioritize what they needed to know.
Okay, so that's marketing and sales. What about the really technical folks, the engineers?
For them, it was almost the reverse approach. These teams often have some AI background already, so leadership basically gave them dedicated time, up to 25% in some cases, and sandbox environment.
And let them loose?
Pretty much. It was more self-directed, open-ended experimentation. Their advice for others wanting to skill up was really simple. Just start building.
Interesting. So the takeaway for an individual learner seems to be, get the foundations, yes, but then you really need that hands-on practice. And maybe connecting with peers.
Absolutely. That peer-led learning piece, like internal show and tells, collaborating on small projects, that's huge for building confidence and driving real adoption. It's that mix, foundation practice and peer support.
Okay, we've covered the technical skills, the practical learning paths, but the sources really hammered home that maybe the most crucial skill in this AI era isn't technical at all. It's human judgment, ethical competence.
Yes. We have to shift the conversation, from just what AI can do to what it should do.
And that defines where we as humans remain essential.
Exactly. And this brings us to the core ethical worries that businesses are grappling with. The first big one, the one everyone talks about, is bias and fairness.
Right, because AI learns from data and data reflects, us, our existing biases.
Precisely. So if you feed biased hiring data into an AI, guess what? It learns to be biased, maybe even amplifying existing discrimination.
So the ethical approach.
It's about moving towards fairness by design, meaning companies have to actively look for and correct bias in their systems before they deploy them. Build fairness in from the start.
Okay. Bias and fairness. What's next?
The second major concern is transparency and explainability, the whole black box problem.
We need to understand why the AI reached a certain conclusion.
Yes, whether it's why someone's credit score is what it is, or why a delivery driver's route suddenly changed. If you can't explain the why, people won't trust it. Adoption just stalls.
Explainability builds trust. Makes sense. What else?
The third big one is data and privacy. And this goes beyond just ticking the legal boxes. It's about ethical consent.
Asking, did the person providing this data really expect it to be used in this way?
Exactly. It demands stronger data governance, things like GDPR-style rules, thinking about privacy by design before you even build the AI system.
Protect the data up front.
Right. And one of the sources offered a really handy way to remember these ethical pillars. It was Dr. Paul Melendez's acronym, FEEE.
FGAE. Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. F is for fair. That's the bias piece. I is for interpretable, the explainability part, making it trustworthy. S is for secure, protecting against attacks. And then G is for governed, and E is for ethical.
Interesting. Why separate governance and ethical? Aren't they kind of the same thing?
Good question. They're related, but distinct. Governance is more about the organizational structures, the rules, the processes, who's accountable across the business.
The mechanics of oversight.
Right, whereas ethics is about the deeper alignment, making sure the AI's actions reflect the company's values and what society expects. Governance is the framework. Ethics is the moral compass using that framework. You need both to be strong.
But that ethical framework really flows into our own personal responsibility, doesn't it? If
Well,
AI is going to be our co-pilot, how do we make sure it actually makes us smarter, more engaged?
and not just, well, lazier intellectually.
Yeah, exactly. How do we avoid becoming passive?
That's really the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if we don't actively change how we work with these tools, there's a real risk our own problem-solving skills could atrophy.
So how do we measure that interaction? The sources had a framework for this too, right?
They did. It's based on two axes, two dimensions of how we collaborate with AI. First is cognitive activity.
Okay, cognitive activity. What's that?
It's the balance between exploration, which is about seeking out new ideas, questioning things, generating possibilities, and exploitation, which is more about refining existing solutions, executing plans efficiently.
Exploration versus exploitation. Got it. What's the second axis?
The second is cognitive engagement. This looks at whether your interaction is constructive, meaning you're actively thinking, questioning the AI, putting its suggestions into context, or detrimental, where you're just passively accepting whatever it spits out.
Oh, okay. So the goal is to stay in the constructive zones, right?
Yeah.
Constructive exploration.
Exactly. That's where you're using the AI to brainstorm, maybe generate some novel ideas, but you are still firmly in control. You're evaluating its output, asking probing questions, steering the process. The AI supports, you direct.
And the other good zone would be constructive exploitation.
Right. That's using AI to maybe refine a plan quickly or execute a known process faster. But again, you are deeply involved. You're making the key decisions, catching nuances the AI might miss, ensuring it aligns with the bigger picture.
So the danger zone is that passive acceptance, the detrimental exploitation.
That's the real risk. It feels efficient in the moment, just taking the AI's answer and running with it. But the sources suggest that over time, it leads to a decontent in your own cognitive engagement. Your critical thinking muscles get weaker.
You stop questioning.
Stop questioning, you stop wrestling with the problem yourself. And that ultimately impairs your ability to solve complex problems down the line.
So the key lesson here for everyone listening is that using AI well means consciously changing how we work.
Absolutely. It requires proactively defining where human judgment must intervene. Smart organizations are literally mapping their workflows to pinpoint those critical decision points where AI output needs human validation, human oversight.
It's constantly asking not just, can the AI do this fast,
Yep.
but
Should the AI do this? And what happens if it gets it wrong? That human oversight, that judgment call, that's where our value increasingly lies.
so it's about shifting our focus to judgment, ethics, critical thinking, using AI to boost those parts of our intelligence.
That's the path forward,
Well-
augmenting our best human capabilities.
Yeah.
Hashtag tag outro.
All right, let's wrap up this deep dive then. Key takeaways seem to be the future really does look like augmentation more than just pure automation.
Yeah, strengthening people.
And for you, the listener, success means getting proactive about your learning. Needs to be structured, specific to your role, and definitely involve hands-on, continuous experimentation.
Don't wait to be told. Start exploring.
And maybe the most important differentiator won't be coding skills, but ethical competence. That ability to provide smart human oversight.
So what does this all mean? I think it means we're shifting towards a new standard, really.
Right.
Success isn't just about raw speed or efficiency anymore.
There's more to it.
Yeah, companies and individuals have to balance that drive for acceleration with, the responsibility to be fair, to protect people, to build trust.
And thinking ahead, you shared a really provocative final thought before we started recording about the next ethical frontier.
Right. Well, looking forward, I think we'll move beyond just judging if AI works correctly. The next challenge will be judging how it feels to interact with.
How it feels.
Yeah. Think about customer service bots, for example.
Mhm.
Soon, businesses might need to evaluate whether those AI interactions maintain a respectful tone, a calm demeanor. Are they emotionally appropriate? We could be moving towards designing AI that feels right.
Wow. Judging AI on its emotional appropriateness, that really is the next level of human-AI partnership. Fascinating stuff. Okay, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Bye-bye. See you next podcast.